Harper's Bazaar is a pretty notable magazine, and they named the 32 most beautiful men of all time. So I wanted to go down this list and check out if any are bald. Since we're often talking about hair loss on our channel, how important is it to have hair to make it onto this 32 most beautiful men list? So number 1, most beautiful man of all time, Marlon Brando. But it's an early picture of Marlon Brando when he had hair. He does have a little bit of a receding hairline there.
Yeah.
But he still has a head of hair for sure.
He was a good look when he was young.
Clint Eastwood, amazing head of hair his whole life.
Incredible hair his whole life.
James Dean, very well known for his hair. Hair and the leather jacket and maybe smoking a cigarette. Maybe the greatest head of hair of all time, Elvis Presley.
Absolutely, especially when he let that little piece hang down in the front.
Paul Newman, great head of hair. Paul McCartney, still, I think he's like in his 80s, and he has a great head of hair still.
It looks like he hasn't lost a hair in his head.
Brad Pitt, incredible head of hair. Lenny Kravitz, one of the best, most iconic, heads of hair on any black man of the last 50 years, I would say.
He doesn't age. Simple as that.
George Clooney, one of the best heads of hair, perfect hairline.
One of the few that I would say even gray looks as good as when it wasn't gray.
Keanu Reeves also has done a great job of keeping his hair all this time. Same with Pierce Brosnan. Still hasn't lost any hair, has he? Maybe a little bit of recession, but he had one of the best heads of hair of the 80s and early 90s, right?
He had the greatest head of hair, and he was in this Mamma Mia 2 a couple of years ago, and it's still there. Yeah. It's crazy.
David Beckham always had pretty iconic hair and hairstyles.
Could anything be wrong with that guy? He's too perfect, right?
Yeah, not fair. Leonardo DiCaprio, great head of hair, especially when he was young, in Titanic. Wow, those brilliant hair. Denzel Washington, iconically excellent head of hair.
Good looking guy.
Now, number 15 is Tupac Shakur. And now I don't know if Tupac actually had hair or not. I feel like I always saw him in this picture with the bandana. So I don't know if he was using the bandana to cover up the fact that he actually was bald.
Don't know. I thought I knew everything with hair.
So this could be our first bald guy on the list. I would say that if there is a bald guy on the list, he's got to be black.
Yeah, but they still look good.
Yeah, dark skinned guys definitely look better. And the 4 Agreements, if you guys have never read this book, highly recommend it. Pretty short read, 2.5 hours on Audible to listen to. I've read it 3 times in the last 2 months. Incredible book. And he talks about the dream of the world. Don Miguel Ruiz is the author. He talks about that everyone is sort of living our own dream. So we dream when we're sleeping, and that's a non-linear dream, right? But when we're awake, we sort of all are living our own dream because we all have our own complete different perspective on everything that happens, Everyone has their own perspective on who the president was and what they meant, on who their parents are, on who they are. Everyone has their own dream, basically, and their own thoughts that are constantly running through their head. And so he also talks about the dream of the planet. And the dream of the planet is the collective dream of all humans and what we sort of agree on, things that become their own dreams within a culture. Things don't skip in line, things like that just become part of who we are and what we believe as humans.
Society.
Society, exactly. Society's dream. And so I feel like that whole idea of bald looking better on dark-skinned men than on light-skinned men is sort of, for some reason, part of the dream of society at this point in history, of the Michael Jordans and the Rocks and those people.
Yeah, I think that society has accepted that the lighter-skinned people that don't have any hair look strange, and that the darker skinned people that don't have any hair don't look strange.
It could even have to do with things like cancer. Lighter skinned people actually, if you don't have hair, you have a much higher risk of skin cancer on the top of your head. Versus the Mexican guys who do my contracting work and everything like that. I'm out there working with them and we're digging ditches and we're, doing sealant and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, you guys are so lucky you don't put on any sunscreen and you're out here and you don't burn and your skin looks great. And me, I've got to slather on this sunscreen. So I think it might also be part of that, part of this understanding that darker skin just accepts the sun in a less harmful way.
I think that's why you see all these sunbathers down at the beach. I think that the olive skin, the darker skin, even on pale white people, looks more healthy. It's kind of a strange way of looking at things, but it does. It just looks healthier.
16, Heath Ledger. 17, Daniel Day Kim, all great heads of hair. Dev Patel, great hair. Let's just kind of skim down the list right now. We don't need to go through every single person, but so far, all of them have incredible hair, like Jason Momoa, Kit Harington, Michael B. Jordan, Charles Melton, just all awesome. Again, then we go Austin Butler, another Elvis. Amazing hair. Only one on the list is Tupac. That's the only one that it looks like was actually a bald guy. And it's interesting because even Tupac seems to often have covered up his hair, with the bandana and everything like that. And this is the case for a lot of people, like the Kenny Chesney, pretty much always wearing a cowboy hat. Hulk Hogan, always wearing the bandana in the front. Brett from Poison, Brett Michaels, always wearing the bandana. So sometimes people do incorporate it as part of their look to cover up the fact that they're balding.
That's my point, David, on a lot of this is that they have a look. Tupac's got a look. All the guys you just mentioned, they have a look. Brett Michaels, and it was the bandana around the cowboy hat. But if they were balding, if they were receding, if they were kind of had a bald spot in the back, what kind of brand is that?
Yeah.
So that's the point, is that you can not have hair if you're good enough and talented enough and have other features to make up for it around your brand. And these are obviously all entertainers. But, I come from the school of losing your hair real young, where it's like, what am I going to do with this? So that's, hey, listen, these guys are great looking guys. They're going to be great looking guys at the top of 2% or 1% anyway. But the hair just brings it home.